Hey, ladies and gentlemen, hey up. Welcome to another week of music here at the RGM Experience podcast with me, Carl Maloney. How are you doing? You're on a nice one. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by Danny and Ali from the Virginmarys. Hi, boys. How you doing? You're on eight.
You're
Good,
right,
mate. Nice to be here.
Yeah, let's talk over each other on Zoom for a little bit, eh?
Yeah, it goes, doesn't it?
It's how it goes. Yeah, thanks for joining us today, boys. I was just speaking to Ali before we started recording today and just saying I had the pleasure of getting my first Virgin Mary's gig live experience down at Part in the Pews last year for Joe's Festival in Macclesfield in a big church, which is a lovely setting for live music and a bit of a strange one as a fan.
Yeah, and perfect setting for a band called the Virginmarys, I guess.
Yes,
like the amount of times people over the years have been asking us to do videos or photo shoots in church and have been like, no, and then we did the gig, but it was good, mate. It was, to be honest with you, Macclesfield's been crying out for like a big size venue for years. You know what I mean? There hasn't been one for like since I don't know 2013 or something like that. So and Joe's great. You know, she always promotes the night really great. It was wicked. It was just nice for us to be able to do a gig in our own town again.
Yeah, that must be nice to. I was going to ask you about that because as Macclesfield lads yourself, how did it feel? When was the last time you played to a hometown crowd?
I think it was like 2013, maybe 14. There used to be a place called Snow Goose Live, and that was like a 300 cap, and it was wicked. Like we did, I think we did 2 Christmas shows there, like on the bounce, and it was ace. And it could have been a great venue for like touring bands that on a day off would come in and do a 300 cap because somewhere like Macclesfield, it'd just be a really really good.
Has the venue sadly gone then now?
It's just been empty since. Like nothing's ever been done with it. So I don't really know what happened. Yeah. Like, I think the people that owned it, the plan was to have it as like a live venue. And as I say, the gigs that we did there were mint, like sold out, and it was top. But and the sound was great as well. But I don't know. I don't know what happened with it.
It's always a shame, isn't it, when you see a live music venue not in the world anymore as a a jobbing musician out there in the world, showing off to all these people and playing your tunes and having those experiences with live people. Every time one of these venues goes, it just seems like a massive loss to any kind of community, really, when these things happen. It's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, it does, man. I think like also the stories of people moving in next to an established venue and then kicking off that there's sound pollution and whatnot, and that being feasible. But it's tough times for venues. It feels like a time of survival, really.
The whole music industry is in survival mode again after COVID, and when it hit the music industry so bad, COVID stopped a lot of people from having a livelihood and being able to pay the rents and that kind of stuff. And I'm sure you're alluding, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but we're local to the Night and Day Cafe in Manchester, where they're having issues where somebody's moved in recently, and it feels like, just seeing the updates of what's going on with the Night and Day, that the council haven't really done proper due diligence when building these flats around a music venue, and then somebody complains about the noise a little bit, and
it's bullshit, man. It's just like it's money. It's just money over culture and everything that's important every time.
Yeah,
and it's just it's how far will it actually go until you realise there's fuck all left, and then people start complaining way too late. So
it's definitely, and I think just having as many, we've got quite serious quite quick here. This is we will have a laugh.
I was going to say, mate,
I'm like,
it's Friday, don't you, Carl?
I know, man. I know. Yeah, let's chill out. So I know I'm just getting over the lurg, and I saw, and this recording's been delayed a little bit because you've not been too well, have you, lads? You've had to cancel a gig, unfortunately, with New Model Army recently. COVID struck again, mate. So are you feeling better now, lads?
I am feeling a hell of a lot better than I did. Kind of knocked me out
Yeah.
And I got it in 2020.
Mm.
And then, yeah, I didn't think that it was COVID, to be honest. And then
Yeah.
our tour manager said that he tested positive. So I thought, oh God, yeah, I best do a test.
Yeah.
And yeah, saw the 2 lines, and it kind of all made sense because I was knocked out. But yeah, we were gutted that we had to miss that gig because we love that band, and
Yeah.
obviously Roundhouse in London as well is the
Yeah.
great venue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a proper shit to that. Like, it would have been a really nice end to play with them boys. Like, it was like the first support gig we ever had was with New Model Army, and after that gig, we were just all massive fans. So to been able to play on their 40th year anniversary would have been wicked. But it is what it is, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, what can you do? So.
Yeah, there's no rules about going out with COVID anymore, but it's just the right thing to do in it, particularly if you're going to be responsible as humans and do the right thing.
Totally. I don't think we would have felt right, having not saying anything about it and then just sneaking in and doing the gig. So yeah, we kind of voiced it, and then it was decided that we shouldn't be doing the gig. So
it's weird with COVID, isn't it? I thought I had it a couple of weeks ago and thought I've got no fucking tests in my house anymore. In fact, I did, but all the water stuff had all dried up, so they were useless anyway. And I had to, as a Yorkshireman, I had to go out and spend £3 and have one, and they were negative. So that were annoying.
I know, yeah, you're not free anymore, are they?
No.
Yeah. The amount of people I've met in boozers and that being like, we got a sniffle on the Sunday after a weekend, and they're like, "Oh, I've got COVID." I was like, "Have you had a test?" Like, no.
Yeah.
Like, well, go and get a test. Then it's like, "Nah, it's sweet. Got to pay for it." Yeah.
I was negative in the end. It's just the old-fashioned cold, It's like just reminiscing and just enjoying a bit of cold, really, where you can go out and about and people just laugh at you for being a bit pathetic as a bloke, because I get a bit pathetic when I get ill.
Yeah,
I don't know where I'm going with this story.
No, it's all right. Thing is, though, like, you do get some pretty bad colds.
Yeah.
But we started practicing, and I just don't know what stuff is anymore. I don't know whether it's a cold or I'm feeling generally or mentally or whatever it is. But just through the day of pushing myself through the practice. Yeah. And then I think Dan was like, "Bloody hell, mate, you don't look well at all," and I had these like red eyes, and it's like, I'm gonna have to go to bed, and that was COVID, but sometimes you
yeah. No, you look like Lowry's self-portrait of himself. You ever seen that photo?
Straight myself into bed. It was like, so I had like really, really odd dreams as well of like some kind of running like sports day of back when I was in primary school, and these names, of kids that you only knew that many years ago just turn up, and just these messed up dreams. You wake up really wet of sweat, I'll say.
Anyway, we're all feeling a little bit better, so let's have a laugh on that. Let's reminisce a little bit. Let's go back. So as young kids then, so did you know each other before you started the band and that kind of stuff? How did your relationship between you two begin?
Yeah, no, we met at Northwich College, music college, which is sadly no longer there. I think it only lasted about 3 years. So it was like a new music course. I think that would start. I think it was funded by the National Lottery. I think, and then it was like the tutor that we had. He had like jet black hair, and after about 2 years, it was like fucking white. You know what I mean? It was one of them. And the best thing about the whole course that come out of it was that me and Al met each other and started playing music together, and that was it.
How old were you then when
16? Oh, we were 16, yeah. And then I was from Mac, so we always used to rehearse in Mac, and then after college finished, Al moved to Mac, and then just always in bands, always doing music ever since then.
And where did you live before Mac then, Al?
In a place called Helsby near like Chester, Frodsham. So it's actually kind of closer to Northwich than Macclesfield is. So yeah. I used to get Dan's college bus home a lot. They never used to check whether you had tickets or whatever it was. And then I ended up staying at Dan's for most of the course, and the course was so bad, really, that they didn't really care if you turned up or not. So we just ended up jamming for the 2 years.
Yeah. Well, I think we pretty much passed our course. I remember speaking to Tute and being like, "Can we just like record some at our place and hand it in?" So he'd be like, "Yeah." So we just wouldn't go in for a week and just turn up with that and get 8 stars across the board. It was all right.
So are you both on families that had instruments in the house and that kind of stuff? How did you first like find how did you work out that, music?
I've a house of like music lovers. My dad, I got brought up on music, and there was an old, I think 3/4 size nylon string guitar that I picked up when I was maybe 10 or 11. And then within a couple of lessons, the guitar teacher said, this is a piece of shit in the nicest possible sense. So I ended up getting a cheap electric guitar and little combo amp package when I was 11, 12. But there's no one of my family really played instruments, but that's how it started for me.
What about you, Dan?
A bit of them. So my dad always had guitars and that since I can remember. There was like a Paul McCartney bass guitar, a violin guitar. That was there since I was born, just always in the house. But my dad couldn't play like a note. He liked guitars, and I think he liked, he's again like loved music and I was into that. So I grew up on like, Beatles and Beach Boys and like sort of soul Motown stuff and all that. And it's quite funny actually, because he actually really wanted me to be. He always wanted to be a drummer when he was a kid and never got the opportunity. And then when I was like 7 or 8 or something like that, I remember one Christmas he bought me this drum kit, and I wasn't interested in anything. Like, it was like a big fuck off, Lars Ulrich drum kit, like a fucking million ton and all this. I couldn't even touch the pedals, if I sat on the seat and that. And it was just there for like 2 years, like a sort of an antique ornament in the room, and because I was too young to sort of even think about it. And then he sold my Christmas present. Never even thought about that till now. You should give me the money. You should give me the fucking money back for that. And then I don't know. I think I was about 12 or 13. I always wanted to play guitar, and I used to say to him like, "Will you buy me a guitar?" And he was like, "No, like I got these drums for you. He didn't want to play drums," and so he wouldn't get me the guitar. And then I was about 12 or 13, and something just clicked where I suddenly decided I wanted to play drums. And I went to him and said, "I want to play drums." And again, he was like, "You can fuck off. Bought you this drum kit." And but he paid for the lessons, and he saw that I could stick with it, and then he I learned on like one of them little Junior Pro. I've still got it, like a drum kit you can't even tune in, like ones that you buy at Argos.
It seems strange that a parent's buying a child a drum kit, because as a parent, that'd be the last instrument I'd buy a kid if I had a kid.
I think it was more like he wanted it. You know what I mean? I look back at it now and think he wanted it. He wanted it in the house. It probably that he got it on he probably got a good deal for it. You know what I mean? It's probably some angle where he had a good deal, and then I never touched it, because it was one of them things. I remember like my mates would be around when we were like fucking 9 and 10 and just sort of hitting it, but you don't know what to do with it. So and then he sold it, and it was one of them.
You mentioned Lars there. I've literally just been watching that Metallica documentary again this morning. Have you seen it? That one from 2003 or something?
Is it the one, Some Kind of Monster?
Yeah, when they've got that psychiatrist.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing, though.
Paying him $40,000 a week.
It's unbelievable.
To sit with him. The dynamics are so fascinating between a band, aren't they? And how much they can vary.
No, you're right. I mean, I think, it's still. I'm not no matter what he does, he always still comes off as a bit of a cunt, doesn't he, Lars? Because what the fuck, like, there's something about him that you just, I don't know, he's a bit of like almost quite sociopathic in it, where he doesn't seem to have that much. He probably does, but he doesn't come across as like a warming person.
And Hatfield as well in the documentary, they were so different.
Yeah, I kind of felt
it worked creatively.
I thought like the Hetfield stuff was fair enough. Like he addresses the problem, essentially, and then it's just when he comes back and says like, I can only do this amount, you know.
Yeah.
You can see Lars fucking fuming, can't you? So, well, it's a bizarre.
And they're still meeting up and, you know, getting on like.
Yeah, that's the most bizarre thing about it, that they carry on the documentary even though like Hetfield's not there, so you can't. There's no documentary without him. And then it's stuff like delving into Lars's relationship with his dad and stuff. It's just so fucking bizarre, but it's brilliant. It's probably one of the best. Probably one of the best bands.
Yeah.
It's definitely top 5 best band documentaries I've ever seen. Definitely.
So how do your two personalities? Where do you excel you two together, and where do you like where's the challenges with you two? Because it can't be perfect. It never is. We're two different humans. How do you? Why does it work for you two so well?
I kind of feel like because we've known each other so long now, and there's been so much stuff that's happened, especially like, you know, music and that, and well, not even just music. It feels like a kind of sibling relationship, or even maybe like a married relationship. You know what I mean? That it just, you know, I think we both know when we're pissing each other off, and we know how.
In a relationship where you look at each other and you can wind each other up. Have you got that kind of telepathy?
Yeah, I think we know each other so well that like, I don't know. There's nothing more to know. You know what I mean? So, but I think that's kind of why it works well, because you can just be like, right, I need to take a break now, or you know, it's dead on it. It's like 100% honest, which is good, because most bands are never that.
And what do you think, Ali?
No, Dan's completely right. Yeah. I think like it's been going on that long that I think you can probably tell when someone's getting wound up, or when, and then you realize what works and what doesn't, and you've been through every scenario 1,000 times before. So honesty is pretty much always the best policy anyway, so there's a bit more of that. I guess maybe roles as well are established a bit better, and you kind of, your ego almost gets less and less on like, well, you're better at this, I'm better than, you know, with this, and somehow kind of forge the best way forward. But it's kind of like family. I think it's gone past any you know, it doesn't, there's been so many highs and lows that it doesn't really matter what becomes out of any of it, as far as I'm concerned. You know, I'd always be there for Dan, for any, and I would like to think, you know, it's the same the other way. But, as long as we're
no, of course it is. Of course it is. It's just, but yeah, I think we've done everything from fist fights to everything. So
what's your favorite thing about each other?
I think there's a uniqueness to Dan that no one else has. So something happens when he plays the drums, or when he's probably one of the funniest people I've met when he's out of himself, when he's kind of riffing and he's somewhere where he's out of thinking about anything serious. I think like the man's a kind of natural talent.
Yeah, man. And for Ali, for you, Dan?
I mean, I think if we didn't have we both have a really, really similar sense of humor. I think that's probably one of the reasons.
Is it dark? I'm getting a dark sense of humor vibe from you both.
It's just it's as dark as you want it. It can be as dark as you want it
Yeah,
to be,
sure.
and then
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. That's probably one of the main things that sort of kept us going, which I actually think is probably one of the most important things about people. Is
Yeah.
there's nothing like when you meet someone who doesn't have a sense of humor.
No.
But no, I mean, I was like, I guess ultimately, like, I'm a fan of his songs, you know, and I've always been a fan of his songs, and like his lyrics and stuff. So there's that as well, and you know, just a good person, you know, someone that lives by the golden rule, which is what we're all supposed to do.
Nice. I were having a quick look on Wikipedia because some of the bands that I interview and chat to, they're not as posh as having a Wikipedia page. So I thought, oh, the Virginmarys have got one. I'll have a quick look, and you know, there's quite a lot of backstory to you all, and you've been through a few different lineups over the years as well. What's made you guys stick together now as a two-piece? Was it a challenge having different voices in the band, just based on how strong you've known each other all your lives and that kind of stuff? Talk me through the dynamic
Yeah,
of the people
I
as
think,
part of this thing.
I mean, I can't, like, we have a laugh about it a lot because back in the day, like when we first started out and stuff, I think we were like 21 and we got this deal, and it was literally like the deal that, you know, you hear about in like a movie or something, where it's like we got offered a deal to go to LA, like Hollywood, and record for 6 months, and then with this Grammy award winning producer, and you know, and then he had and then he'd have a year to sell it to a major. If you got a major, it was all that stuff. And of course, like, we did everything that everything you're not supposed to do. Like, you know, sign the contract that you weren't supposed to sign. You know, got a fucked up deal. You know, had a fucked up manager. Like, we've done all of it. Like, I can't even like, I could spend 3 hours here talking to you, and I can guarantee you'd be pissing yourself by the end of it, like, the stories. But
Give us one story from it, like the best story from that like experience.
What was one of the best stories? I mean, what?
Careful, Dan.
What? And then, and then, okay. One of the funniest stories that I always remember that, and it's funny because, like, so our manager was like a heart on his sleeve kind of guy. He was, you know, I think he was like, he was more excited about being in the band and getting the deal than we were, if you know what I mean. It was almost like he wanted the deal, you know, he wanted to be in the band. So, and yeah, the producer, we ended up coming back to England, and then there was a bit of a fallout, and he refused to speak to the band anymore. Sorry, he refused to speak to the manager, so he'd only speak to the band. So we had to set up like a voice call, but the manager wanted to still be on the call because he was worried about what would be said, and we had to get like a. He actually asked. He said, "Like, has anybody? Which one of you's got like a phone that you can have like a loudspeaker on?" So it ended up at my mum and dad's house, and I think they'd accused him of being anti-Semitic, and then he'd said something like, and I looked that up in my dictionary, and it was you know, against, and he was like, and I'm not anti-Semitic. Anyway, we had the conversation with him, and the first thing they said on the phone call was like, "Are you guys anti-Semitic?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Do you know that your manager is?" And we were like, "No, he's not." He's like, "Oh yeah." Oh no, sorry, that was it. Literally just about before we started the call, he said I might have called him a pair of Judases.
Wow.
Right. And then it got lost in translation where they ended up saying he called us a pair of Jew asses. And of course, there's no way an English guy would say that, because like you'd never say Jew asses. So it was just, yeah, that was the funny thing about it. Like it was obviously
like crazy, like, you know, the holy grail of getting a record deal and, you know, all these promises that I presume will have been made to you, and then it goes a certain way when there's other egos within the music industry that have got their own interests at heart, and it's just
it was terrible.
The industry is a weird place, isn't it?
It was a terrible time in many ways. I mean, it was a great learning curve, like diving into the deep end, and it was great to have that manager around. You know, God bless him. But we kind of got seduced into signing something. They were like, "You guys are the shit. You're the next Beatles. You're the best." So, you know, like they believed in us as much as we believed in ourselves. We were just kids, no kind of idea of the industry, no idea of marketing ourselves or anything like that. We just had about 30, 40 songs, and they loved it. They wanted to pay for everything that we did. We were going to have our own laptops because it's that important that you keep in touch with your fans. Will do this and that for you. We signed it thinking that these guys were amazing. Then within the first few days, I would say, he came round, the main man came round and then said, "You know what, I was thinking about it. You guys have got no hits at all. And you need my help to blah, blah, blah. Right, who wants to go for a drive around the canyons with me?" And it's like, "What are you talking about?" I got taken away from him, from the band separately, and he wanted to tweak this and that of certain songs, like literally a word here or a word there. I started to smell a rat, said, "Hang on, is this co-writing though?" And then it got all weird. Started speaking about his lawyer a lot. And it became apparent that he did want to co-write because we apparently no longer had any hits. And there was a big kick-off. I mean, there was kind of a bit of friction in the band anyway because I got taken off. There's never been like a kind of front man type vibe in this band. So I think it was a bit weird to start with. It's like, why is he getting singled out? And then it became apparent that he did want to co-write. It all kicked off within the first week when we were there for 3 months, and then he was pretty much, well, you know, if we can't work this out, you know where the airport is. And it was like, wow, you know, so we just signed this contract. We've been like,
this is in days.
Within days. Honestly, we're just like early 20s. And he was adamant, or he just thought, we've taken you from Manchester to Hollywood, or, you know, it was outside Hollywood, but it's like, Manchester's great. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, he was dead sort of down on it, wasn't he?
Yeah, he didn't have any ideas apart from like the odd kind of tweak of a line or this and that, and then it was just taking more and more money, and we pretty much just stood strong. It's not really about if someone comes up with a better idea, fantastic, you know, all about the song. But when someone doesn't, you're not just gonna, or something doesn't feel right. That's where we've always stood by each other and thought it's about the music, it's about integrity more than anything, and having respect for yourself. And that's what that's what we've stuck by the whole time, right or wrong. And that's probably why we've got the fans that we do have and the respect that we do have, because we're still here writing great songs, recording great music, releasing it, whether it's with a label or without. And we're just being honest. And that's, I think, in this day and age, sadly, there's a small percentage of people actually doing that. So it speaks to a lot of people when it's like that. Oh, they're actually being real. They're actually telling the truth. They're putting the money where the mouth is. You know, like somehow that is, I don't know, almost like a needle in a haystack these days. Like no one's doing it.
How was it?
We've always done that.
How was it getting away from that situation then? Like, you know, did they hold on to you? But legally, where did you start?
Yeah, no, we've still got like certain bits and pieces in what we signed, you know, whatever it, you know, however long ago it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the reason why we ended up deciding to stop being the band that we were, and we started Virginmarys, because it was a case of if we'd have carried on with the band under the same band name, that guy would have, if we'd have used any of the songs that we'd had previously, and I think we had about 30 songs that we presented to him, we would have had to work with him. He would have had to sort of be involved in it. So that was that was kind of the reason where it was like we came back, and it was kind of devastating, obviously, because you were, let's say, 21, 22, you just spent 6 months in Hollywood. You've met all these top A&Rs for like Columbia and Interscope, and everyone was buzzing about the band, and then that's all over. Yeah, when I look back at it now, it was a big thing for us to go, you know what, we're not going to play any of them songs anymore, we'll start from scratch again, and that's when we started Virginmarys. And
they still have a hold over Virginmarys stuff?
You what, sorry?
You still have a hold on Virginmarys stuff, even though you changed your name?
Yeah, you know, that was it. So it was on that point that we started Virginmarys, and we never played any of them songs ever again. We never I don't even think I've ever even listened to any of them songs again since. So that's how, because it was just, the whole thing was like such a bad, left such a bad taste in your mouth and that. And again, at the time, like, our manager was kind of like, our manager was kind of like, he was convinced there was nothing wrong with the band, nothing wrong with the songs. He just wanted us to be have more attitude, because, like, you know, we've always been really nice, honest guys, whereas he wanted us to be more like Liam Gallagher, and he wanted Ali to be like, you know, go to a gig and, like, you know, put your fingers up at the fans and spit on them if you want. And it's like that, you know what I mean?
Spit on them.
So when we said to him,
who says that? Spit on them if you want, mate.
So when we said to him, we're going to change the name, we're going to start a brand new band, we're going to call it Virginmarys, he was like, that name is unmanageable. If you do that, I can't manage you. So then we were like, right, well, we're definitely calling it Virginmarys then.
Perfect.
But yeah, that's how it started. That's how we started Virginmarys, because of that.
What made you start your career in the music industry? And wow.
No, like, we've been to the kind of, it feels like we've been to the bottom quite a few times, you know, and we're still, I don't know, out of all of it, you just kind of realize it's about the music, and it's about creating something, and it's about being who you are rather than who you're being told to be or who you feel it should be. And that's probably why it's got really dark in places, and no doubt it could do again, or it will do again, I don't know, but me and Dan seem to be the only ones who can survive it and stay with it. So that kind of answers the you know.
Yeah, well, it just following on Wikipedia, it says it lists all the support slots that you had, like with Slash, for example. Was that part of your time in America? That is that?
No. So yeah, so
where's that in the timeline?
Once we sort of became Virginmarys, and then started doing this new stuff, it kind of all came really quickly. Like, we got a guy that he lived in Mac, and he was like the biggest Oasis fan ever. And Oasis' new album come out, I can't remember which one it was, back in the day, and he'd gone into the local CD store, and then he'd seen that our CD was in there, because we'd asked them to put it in, sell it for us, and he bought that, and then he somehow found out where I lived, turned up at my house, and was like, I love Oasis, but I can't stop listening to your album, what's going on? So he became like an investor, and at the time we were involved with like another management who were trying to get us involved with this new label in Manchester called Modern English, and they wanted us to do an album with can't remember his name, but it's the guy that did the first Radiohead album, Pablo Honey, and we were a bit like, fucking shit, that album. So why would we want to work with him? You know what I mean? Like, not the band, love Radiohead, but I don't like that album's. It's got 2 songs on it, or maybe even 1 song. But so this guy came in, and fair play, like he had no clue about anything. He just said, like, I think it's fucking brilliant, and I'm willing to put like 20 grand into it. And that's all me and Al really wanted, because it was like, right, we can now just get on the road and tour. Because at that point, really, in the UK, we'd only ever really played like, you know, Manchester, Leeds, Liverpool, you know, shit like that. I think we did 1 gig in London to nobody once. So it was about, you know, like every band from Manchester does.
Yeah, most bands.
And then from there we got this manager, and it all escalated really quickly. He was working with an online sort of label, and then it was through that, like, his company were doing Slash's first album, and that's how we got that support. So that was the first ever sort of support slot we ever got to do with Slash, and it was amazing because I think we only did 3 shows, which was like Edinburgh, Belfast, and Manchester. And then in Manchester, he was wearing our t-shirt, and then the lead singer, Miles Kennedy, was wearing our t-shirt in Luxembourg the next gig after that, and turned out they really loved the band. And yeah, I think Classic Rock Magazine put out a CD of like Slash's favourite 20 songs, and he put one of our songs, Bang Bang Bang, on it. So
what was it like? I think that, you know, meeting Slash might be quite intimidating. What was it like to meet him and like play on the same stage? And
he didn't make it intimidating in the slightest. It's one of the most impressive kind of encounters, I think. I think me, Dan, and Matt, who was playing bass, we were outside one of the venues, I think, and we noticed that we were just outside having a cigarette, and we noticed that he was there, and he just kind of wandered up and just made it was dead easy, it was dead nice, and he didn't make it at all. There was no sense of huge ego or anything like that. Probably couldn't sing his praises high enough, really. It was amazing.
Such a iconic person, and you know, you've gone on and supported many big bands. Just going on the list that I've made a note of: Skunk Anansie, Terrorvision, Ash, Vida, Queens of the Stone Age, We All Scientists, all these big bands. What kind of experiences did you take away from touring with these you know, massive acts?
I think like I think we both like to kind of learn. We're both nice, good people, and willing to kind of listen and learn from and hear people's stories. And I think that people like that, and they've kind of taken us under their wing in certain regards. Like Skunk Anansie were incredible with us, and we just kind of learn off people. And the drummer, Skunk Anansie, didn't he give you a kind of snare drum or something, Dan?
Yeah, he was amazing. Mark, like, pretty much from the first gig, was dead sound with me, and really liked my drumming. And I think maybe my hi-hat cymbals, one of my hi-hat cymbals snapped maybe a couple of gigs in, and you know, I didn't have any spares, so we're just cracking on with it. And then he heard that they were cracked, so he give me his spare pair. And then at the end of the gig, he was like, "No, they're yours." And then he gave me his snare that he'd been playing for the gig and that. And yeah, sound, you know, like
most of the bands that we've ever been with have been amazing, and I think that
yeah,
we're just grateful to be there, and we're kind of happy to I don't know, just learn what you can. Happy to be there, and it kind of works.
It's definitely not a coincidence that these big names that are nice to people are still around.
Yeah, I mean, there has been the odd one where you just think, all right, we tend to let people be exactly who they are. I don't think like we really come to the party with any egos or whatever. It's just that everything that we do is in the music and the performance, and it doesn't really matter we're not going to change people while we're on, whether they're supporting us or we're supporting them. It really doesn't matter.
Who did you have in mind, Ali? I've got to ask.
What, of like knobheads? I'm not going to say that.
Oh, mate.
Well,
mate,
everybody's watching this is wanting me to ask.
Well,
so.
yeah, no, you can be guaranteed, like someone will enter the room and they'll do their little dance, whatever that is, and no one will say a word. Everyone will be nice as pie, with that, but they'll leave the room and there'll just be a knowing look between me and Dan and Gareth as to whoever we're touring with, and it's just known, isn't it? Like that. All right, that's how it is. That's how you are. And
was it anybody I just mentioned? If on the list?
No.
Sorry, I'm just trying to be.
I know you're all right. No, they do exist, but it's not. I would say that most people in bands are absolutely sound.
Yeah.
It's not just bands though, is it? It's people in the industry. You'll have met loads yourself. People come and they think that they're bigger than what they are.
Oh, there's still people in bands that have been around for 5 minutes, like literally played a few gigs down Northern Quarter that think they're entitled.
Yeah.
and I see that every day.
I think that's it. I mean, ever since I can remember, I think probably the problem is most. I'd say over 50%, probably over 60% of people that get in bands or what be singers, what be in music, don't get into it because they love music. It's just because they see it on the telly and hear it on the radio and go, I want to do that. Yeah. And then part and parcel is to kind of come across as, I think that's part of the thing that they have it in their head, whether I need to have that kind of like, I'm the shit, when really they're fucking not. They're playing 2 people and that, but
they soon get found out though when they realise how hard work it is being in a band, and it's not.
Yeah, definitely, mate.
It's not just being on stage to a few people that are clapping you and getting the adulation and the girls and all the other stuff that historically has gone on with bands. It's hard work, isn't it?
A lot of hard work, and you've got to be in it for the love, really, or especially now because there's just no money in it. There isn't, and you really have to work. 4 times as hard as what you would think that you would have to, and get paid 4 times less than what you think you should do. So it's like, it's got to be a labor of love, really. And maybe that's the way it should be. Maybe that's the way it should have been. I don't know. I mean, in so many ways, kind of lucky to be able to. You see what happens in what's happening in the Ukraine at the minute, and just to be able to be practicing with like someone as incredible as Dan on the drums and be speaking of to people on the internet and all this. It was very, very lucky to be doing it.
Well, you've got amazing fans that are there for the ride with you, aren't you? And I can remember just before the gig that I saw you at the Christchurch in Macclesfield, you'd been on telly just before, you'd been on calendar talking about this tour to Sweden that you'd just been on. Wasn't that instigated by one of your more enthusiastic fans?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's an amazing story, really. It was a guy from Sweden who he didn't actually. I don't think he got into us that long ago. It was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, or it was the last album anyway. So 2018 maybe, and just absolutely loved. I think he'd heard a single that had been played on the radio in Sweden, and next thing we were touring, he came over with his mate. Loved it. The next time he came over, it was with like his whole family, and he just like, when someone just like they so get it, they so believe in the band, and just I guess he couldn't get his head around like why we're not bigger than what we were. And he was convinced that like Sweden would absolutely love us, and so he was always like, you need to come to Sweden. And the Scandinavian countries that are always known as the hardest countries to get into. Like there's loads of big bands that still don't play Scandinavia. I mean, we've been lucky where we've had a bit of it in with Norway, so we've always kept going back to Norway, but I think we'd only ever played Sweden once, and that was supporting Skunk Anansi in Stockholm. So we'd never thought about going to Sweden again because the cost, and then if you've not got big radio support, or you're going to play to nobody. But he was so adamant about us coming over and playing. So eventually we were like, well, yeah, we'll. And we thought it'd just be one gig. But no, he'd organised, like, he'd set up with this promoter, and it was like 9, I think it was 9 gigs. It was like 8 gigs in Sweden, 1 in an island off Sweden. And then he was going to essentially tour manage it, really, and drive the van and stuff. And
this is not a normal situation, isn't it?
No, not at all. And it's like you said before, when you said, like, people, it wears out after a bit, like after where you realise that it's not all it's not glamorous at all. And I thought that, being on the tour with him, I thought, like, once he gets about 3-4 gigs in, he'll get it, like so many other people, where it's like, it's a lot of hard work, this driving about, lifting gear. And he didn't. Like, he was the opposite. He was like, I absolutely love it. Like, he genuinely just was so passionate, and it was unbelievable. I mean, I said to Al while we were doing it, like, we'll never do a tour like that. Like, he went out of his way to, like, every town we went to, he'd find an hour before we had sound check where we'd go to, like, this town's really famous for doing, like, sweets, like boiled sweets and stuff. So we'd go to, like, sweet shops and stuff, and it was just, like, incredible. And, like, took us to, like, the ABBA Museum in Stockholm, and
that minute, was it?
I don't know what that will never happen to us ever again. Like, it'll never happen to any band. It's just,
I think that's
ridiculous.
that's the power of the band, though, and that's the power of the belief, and something translates through the music, where because he felt so passionate about, like, he got really unwell, and he nearly died, and the music helped him a lot during his recovery. And then he was adamant that he was paying for everything to take us to Sweden, have his favorite band play his favorite country, and he is so passionate about Sweden, and Sweden is absolutely awesome. And he was just showing up. I mean, me and Dan was still knackered from the UK tour, and we just wanted like a sleep sometimes, but there was never a spare minute. We saw everything that we could possibly see in the country.
Yeah.
He never stopped. The man is like a kind of fire, like a ball of energy, and he's incredible. Like, he's awesome, Pele and his family. But yeah, that kind of doesn't surprise. I mean, even though it's who would do that. And it still kind of blows my mind a bit. Some part of me isn't surprised, because these type of things seem to happen with the band. Like, when the UK tour that we just done, a guy came over with his wife from Ohio and the US, and just the music spoke to him so much that I'm still in touch with him now, and he's a pastor in Ohio of, I think, 2 churches, and it spoke so deeply to him that he traveled 3,000 miles to come and see the band, play at Gorilla in Manchester. And it's, I don't know what it is that's within the music, but yeah, it seems to speak to certain people very kind of strongly, which is incredible. It's kind of
I don't think I've ever spoke to a band that's had or appears to be some kind of, like, conduit. Is that a word? Is that the right word I'm looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Where just lightning keeps hitting you at really unpredictable times, and that's nothing you can control, is it? All this experience keep landing on you. But
I mean,
there's got to be a reason for that. It's because it's your talent and how you engage with how you project your voice and music out into
one of the biggest things that
happened,
happened, I think, was that Slash experience, where, like, me and Dan had been working so hard for 10, 15 years, and we'd gone through that horrible experience in America, and we had to kind of scrape ourselves back up, believe in the whole thing again, put in like 200%, And then, you know, like 10 years later, after being told, you know, you're shit and you're this and that, and being bullied, you have someone like Slash say, "Oh, Virginmarys, cool fucking name for a band," you know, where it's like, yes, it fucking well is, isn't it? You know, like, and you know, kind of, you knew it was back then, and then wearing the t-shirt, loving the music, where you were the only one who believed it. You know, 5 years ago when you wrote it, people were saying, "No, don't do that, don't do that. You don't want to change this," and yet you've got to kind of like be strong and like stand by it. So that, I think that time that all that stuff happened with Slash, it was one of them moments where, you know, like the lightning strikes and you think, yeah, what we're doing is fucking right, and it does translate to certain people, and it's almost like that Paul Scholes football player that, you know, not everyone sees the magic, but there is magic there, you know.
I love that. And it must have been, it must feel like a ride, particularly like on your own mental health, really, just having all those ups and downs and, you know, major opportunities, you know, lies told to you, circumstances happening, amazing things with Slash. What a ride this band's been for you two.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm
right, you know,
it's
kind of making me laugh thinking there was some in America, you know, like I was at the bottom, I was like in bits, like mental breakdown type of thing. But you know, you have to. It's funny. You have to laugh at like them type of things, and that the kind of humor gets you through it all. You know, there's certain bits that just are funny. Maybe you wouldn't get through it if you couldn't find the funny parts of that. Well, yeah, it gets dark, and you've got two choices, haven't you? And me and Dan chose to actually keep going with it.
And
so that, you know.
I hear you're celebrating 8 years sober as well, Ali. No,
actually 10 years. But,
10 years. Wow. Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
was that a decision you made because of the ride of the band? You know, did something have to change in your life to allow you to carry on?
Yeah, I was getting away with it, which probably most people's stories. I was getting away with it for a while, and I don't know if it was like John Cooper Clarke or somebody said, you know, like first it's fun, then it's not, then it's horrible, you know, and that's probably how it goes by the end. The blackouts are insane, even when I wasn't drinking much, and I couldn't get away with it anymore. And, you know, I should have stopped a lot sooner than I did, but then that's never the way that it works. Yeah. But yes, it's a practice, a daily kind of practice. Maybe not just with booze, but you've got to change your whole lifestyle, your whole perception. But it's the best thing that I ever did, really.
Yeah, congratulations, mate. Say that. And yeah, so Danny, what have you got? What's the biggest thing that you've learned from this ride? That's an open question and a half, isn't it? Sorry, mate.
I don't know. I always definitely that. I know I did it for the right. I know I'm in this for the right reasons, because I always used to say, like, for all the amazing stuff that's happened, all the bad stuff that's happened, if there was ever a point where you know, I didn't get the same buzz that I got doing a gig, doing them shows, or being in the practice room, recording, writing the new tunes, it'd be over. But it that's always still there. It's never really changed, and it's kind of like, I know that if I didn't have that, there'd be like a massive hole in my life that I'd never ever be able to. There'd be nothing that could replace that. And only people that are in this game for the same reasons know what I'm talking about. You know, like, and I think that's what it is. Like, yeah, it's I couldn't have done that. There's nothing else I could have done. I don't think. Like, it's
Well, you're talented at art as well. You do the artwork for the band, don't you?
Yeah, I do all the graphics and stuff.
Yeah.
But again, that was like that was more of like, I think I did the first few. I mean, like for instance, like the first few EPs and stuff. So I like, there's a couple of them covers that I absolutely detest, and that was like I didn't. It wasn't what I was basically putting it together, but it was like management and yeah. If it was now, there's no way I would have done them covers.
Yeah,
you know. But I think it was more like we needed someone to do it. I could do a little bit of it, but I never really wanted to do it. Whereas now I actually do. I do like doing it, and like I couldn't think of anybody else doing our stuff because I know exactly how our stuff should look now. But yeah, certainly in the early days, it's kind of a bit like looks like a bad Queen cover that.
Well, there's definitely no stopping you two. What have you got? What's coming up in 2023 for you guys? Is there anything that you can mention yet, or?
We have got shows coming up that we can't announce just yet. But yeah, it's just getting back in the studio and working towards the more singles, videos, and an album.
Nice.
All of that.
Nice. And have you got a bit of time off now? We're just for people watching and listening to this. We're recording it just before the week before Christmas. so have you got a nice festive season ahead of you both?
We've got one more show which is actually in Macclesfield. Funnily enough, it's like so it'll be the first proper hometown show in about 6 years. We managed to get like the local cinema to let us do a gig there. So I'm really hopeful that's going to be amazing. Like the venue's amazing. So that's it. That'll be the last sort of gig of the year.
Well, we'll share all the new dates and stuff on obviously through RGM and spread the word and help help wherever we can. I've really enjoyed getting to know you both today, guys. Thank you.
Oh, you too.
No, cheers, mate. Nice one.
Is there anything you want to share with the fans just before we let you get on with your day today? Just a little.
Just sending our love. We appreciate everyone, and we've got the best fans in the world. So, yeah, very grateful for everybody.
Anything to add, Dan?
I hope you had a nice Christmas. Yeah. And have a good 2023.
Nice one, guys. Well, thanks for joining us today. I've really enjoyed delving into the history of the band and getting invested with you, and two solid lads, just talented boys with the world at your feet again. Another chapter begins in 2023, I presume, mate.
Yes, mate.
Those guys.
Chapter 23.
Yeah, man. Nice one. Thank you.
Cheers, man.